Under President Donald J. Trump, America wakes up to a bombshell revelation that the FBI could no longer hide. In fact, leaked documents now just confirmed, and they prove what many of us have suspected from the start. The assassin who gunned down Charlie Kirk didn't just pull a trigger. He left behind a manifesto that was carved into the bullets themselves. Yes, guys, you heard that right. Cartridges literally engraved with pro-transgender and anti-fascist slogans. His motive was written in cold steel, loaded into the chamber, and then fired into one of the most influential conservative voices in America. Now, here's the part of the story that should enrage every single one of you guys who's watching this show right now. While independent voices like Steven Crowder broke this story, and Megyn Kelly, mind you, called out CNN for watering it down as mere cultural phrases, the FBI quietly sat on the truth. Guys, they had it black and white, and yet they chose silence. They chose silence. Why? Because the public sees the words transgender and anti-fascist ideology linked to this assassination, and the narrative, it crumbles. So that can't work for them. So the media's sacred cow explodes. And of course, the rise of radicalized violence from the far left, it can no longer be denied or dismissed as coincidence. So this isn't just a shooting. This is a chilling message. This is a bullet turned into a political statement. And today, whenever you're watching the show, we're gonna actually break down everything, exactly what those leaks revealed and what Megyn Kelly exposed and how deep this cover up really goes. So I appreciate you guys being here. Now, if Charlie Kirk, a man targeted for speaking out against gender ideology, if he can be assassinated in broad daylight with bullets engraved as a manifesto, then the question that every American has to ask is, well, who the heck is next? Like, subscribe, strap in, guys, because I'm going to go ahead and rip this story right open. We've got breaking news here in the last 24 hours, several updates, okay? Under President Donald J. Trump, America wakes up to a revelation that's just so shocking. The FBI tried to bury it, but the truth broke free. Leaked FBI documents now confirm what insiders whispered about a long time ago. Really, the bullets that were used to assassinate Charlie Kirk were not ordinary rounds. They were engraved, all right? These were carved with pro-gender and anti-fascist slogans on them. Now, think about that. The killer didn't just fire any old shot. He fired a statement, a manifesto written not on paper but on steel. And here's the kicker. While independent voices like Steven Crowder broke the leak and Megyn Kelly called out the media's lies, the FBI sat silent. CNN twisted the words, calling it cultural phrases as if they were like graffiti on a bathroom wall or something like that. No. Ladies and gentlemen, this was clearly a radical message. It was loaded into a rifle and then it was aimed at the heart, or in this case, at the neck of a conservative movement. So tonight, I want to go ahead and expose what the FBI didn't want you to know, why Megyn Kelly just blew this story wide open, literally blew the lid off the cover up, and how Charlie Kirk's assassination literally just crossed the line that this country cannot ignore. Drop an amen in the comments down below, guys. 24 years after the towers fell, America faces a new kind of attack, ideological, targeted, and it's homegrown. The FBI's own leaked documents confirmed the ammo that ended Charlie Kirk's life carried engravings of trans and Antifa ideology. This wasn't random. This wasn't chaos. This was political theater written in blood. And the question that every American should be asking themselves right now is, what else are they hiding? Like, if it took a leak to reveal this information, then what other truths are being locked behind closed doors while the public is being spoon-fed, watered-down headlines, right? So this is the situation we're facing today, guys. On the one side, you've got a conservative leader assassinated with bullets turned into a manifesto. But on the other side, you got a system that seems more determined to protect an ideology than to tell you the truth. So I want to rewind to September 10th, 2025. Utah Valley University. Charlie Kirk, 31 years old, arguably one of the most influential conservative voices in America. He steps on campus as a part of his normal, debates that he always does at the America Comeback Tour. He never walked off. From a very elevated rooftop position, a sniper fired a single round, one shot, one kill. Reminded me of the Butler, Pennsylvania situation with President Donald Trump. The assassin fled on foot, captured on surveillance cameras as he disappeared into a nearby neighborhood. There's footage of the assailant climbing down from the rooftop. Charlie wasn't just another speaker. He was relentless in exposing gender ideology, fearlessness, and challenging the left's sacred narratives, and unapologetic in defending America's values. That's what made him great. That's what made him a target. Of course, there were other things that made Charlie great, but yeah. So yesterday, the target, it was hit. And so now, with the FBI documents in hand, we know that this wasn't just about silencing a voice. It was about sending a message carved into cartridges, spelling out the ideology that was behind the bullet. That was one of the biggest clues that we got initially. But the worst time to discover gaps in your Medicare plan is during an emergency. This is when people realize that they don't have the coverage that they thought that they did. This is why so many people are calling Chapter ahead of time. They review every Medicare option to make sure that your plan actually works in a crisis. One viewer said, Chapter saved me before I even knew I had a problem. So let me ask you, are you going to wait for an emergency, or are you going to do what people already are doing, which is fixing it before it happens? Now, most people, they're already calling the phone number down below, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. Phone number is 909-563-8279. And of course, it is totally free to call, and it's a completely free service for the Ron Yates community. Tell those guys over at Chapter I said hello. So here's where it gets even darker, guys. Law enforcement, they scoured the area around the Utah Valley University, and they made a very chilling find. Hidden in a wooded patch near suburban homes, they discovered the assassin's weapon. It was an older imported Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle. Now, it wasn't just dumped. It was actually wrapped in a towel. It was stashed like evidence that someone hoped would never be found. But inside that rifle, one spent cartridge, the very round that killed Charlie Kirk, still chambered, and right alongside it, 3 unspent rounds waiting to be fired. And each one was engraved. Now, ask yourself, who takes the time to carve ideology into ammunition, right? Who turns a bullet into a manifesto? This wasn't random. This wasn't a heat of the moment crime. This was deliberate. This was planned, and this was tactical. So clearly the weapons recovery didn't just prove a shooter. It proved that the shooter had intent, and that intent was everything. But wait till you hear what those engravings actually said on them. So these bullets, they weren't blank slates. They were covered with phrases that were linked directly to transgender activism and Antifa ideology. Now think about that. Ammo transformed into propaganda. Words of a radical movement literally etched into the rounds that were meant to kill. That's not just symbolism. That's a manifesto. And a very chilling declaration carved onto cold steel, chambered and fired into the body of one of America's strongest conservative voices. And of course, it didn't stop there. We've seen online trends, trans militias forming in private chats, radical slogans flooding social media, memes inciting violence. But now those same slogans, they weren't just used online on like X or Reddit or whatever forums. They were locked into a rifle. They went from rhetoric to reality. So this wasn't just about silencing Charlie Kirk. This was about sending a very clear message to every conservative: speak out, and this could be you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this doesn't make your blood run cold, I really don't know what will. So now, here's where the story takes a turn that should make every American furious. Who told you the truth first? Was it the FBI? Was it CNN? Was it the Wall Street Journal? No, it was Steven Crowder. His team got to the leaked ATF document and he published it. Wow, that document spelled out exactly what the cartridges said: transgender and Antifa ideology, plain as day. Then Megyn Kelly comes in and drops the hammer. She exposed how CNN twisted the truth, burying the ideology behind vague nonsense like cultural phrases. Cultural phrases? Give me a break. That's like calling a terrorist manifesto creative writing. They downplayed it on purpose. Why? Because the FBI didn't want this out. Because the media didn't want you to be connecting the dots. And if it weren't for the leaks, if it weren't for Crowder and Megyn Kelly, America might never have known the truth. That's the question. If they hid this, what else are they hiding? Now, I want to talk about the killer. The FBI just released images of a person of interest, a young white male, early 20s, wearing blue jeans and a dark shirt with an American flag across his chest. He was wearing a hat, sunglasses. They got him on video. They tracked his movements on campus, walking through the stairwells, crossing the roof, pulling the trigger, and then sprinting off and climbing down the building running into a neighborhood. They've got the palm prints. They've got a forearm imprint. They've got a footwear impression in the dirt. They saw photos of his outfit. They even admitted to having high quality video of the assassin. So here's the $1 million question that most people should be asking at this point. Why haven't they released it? Why are they still sitting on some of the clearest footage of this killer while the public is still in danger? And to make it worse, the FBI admitted that they ran facial recognition, but it failed. Failed? Are you telling me in 2025, under the Trump administration, with some of the most advanced technology in the world, you expect us to really believe that you cannot match the face of a 20-something-year-old who just assassinated a public figure on campus? Come on. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's not failure. This is clearly stonewalling. And why Charlie Kirk? Why was he the target? Well, let's not kid ourselves. Charlie was relentless when it came to exposing radical gender ideology. He called out child mutilation surgeries. He fought against biological men invading women's sports. He pulled no punches. He pulled no punches when he said the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it was. And guess what? The very engravings on those cartridges echoed the very same twisted rhetoric that paints Trump supporters as fascists, that the connection trans ideology tied with Antifa hatred, a radical worldview that says people like Charlie aren't just wrong, they're evil. And so in the mind of a radical, evil must be destroyed. This wasn't random. This wasn't just another shooter. This was ideology. This was ideological assassination. And if Charlie Kirk, a man speaking on a college campus, can be hunted down with bullets carrying a manifesto, then what does that mean for the rest of us? Now, here's the part that should really make every American sick. While Kirk's family mourns this situation, while conservatives reel from the shock, radical activists, they're online celebrating. Memes spread like wildfire. The world has started to heal, mocking his death, laughing that a CIS white man is gone, even suggesting his murder was justice for trans deaths. This isn't just rhetoric anymore. It's not just Twitter meltdowns or Reddit rants. It's bullets, it's blood. And the radicals cheering online prove the culture of violence is not only tolerated in those circles, it's encouraged. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's be crystal clear. This wasn't one shooter acting alone in silence. This is a part of a subculture that justifies murder as self-defense, that cloaks assassinations as fighting fascism. And if that doesn't terrify you, well, it should. So here's where the insult to America really turns into a full-blown betrayal. CNN, the Wall Street Journal, the so-called mainstream press, they all had the same information. The cartridges didn't say cultural phrases. They weren't harmless little slogans. They were engraved with transgender and anti-fascist ideology. That's motive. That's the manifesto. But instead of telling you the truth, they sanitized it. They watered it down. Why? Because admitting the obvious, that radical trans activists and Antifa ideology were behind this assassination, this would shatter their narrative. And so we've seen this pattern before. Facts that don't fit the agenda get buried, softened, or even erased. And when the media tries to hide the truth, they don't just cover up a crime. They create the environment for the next one. I mean, how many more attacks will it take before they admit what's really happening in front of our faces? So now, under President Donald J. Trump, America is demanding answers. Trump ran on transparency. He promised law and order, and yet here we are. Leaked FBI documents showing more honesty than the FBI itself. This fallout's massive. If Charlie Kirk, one of the most recognized conservative leaders in America, can be assassinated with bullets etched in ideology, then no conservative voice is safe. Not at a college campus, not at a rally, not anywhere. And so you gotta wonder, how will President Trump respond to this? Will he demand that the FBI release the high-quality video of the suspect? Will he call out the cover-up? Or will the establishment try to stonewall him the same way that they stonewalled us? One thing is clear. This wasn't just an attack on Charlie Kirk. This was an attack on every conservative in this country. A shot fired at the movement itself. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a commentator. He was a fighter. He was a man who stood up on hostile campuses, college campuses, and he said the things polite society was afraid to say. And he called out child mutilation. He defended women's sports. He exposed the left's dangerous ideologies and refused to back down. And now, in death, his voice echoes louder than ever. Megyn Kelly said it best. She said, "You can't take us all out. If Charlie's life inspired you, even for one moment, then his legacy is clear. Don't go silent. Don't let fear win. If they thought a single bullet would silence an entire movement, they were dead wrong. College students, high schoolers, everyday Americans, you now have a voice. Will you shrink back, or will you pick up the mantle and keep speaking the truth no matter what the cost?" That's the legacy that Charlie leaves behind. This is a call to courage. This is a call to refuse silence. So here we are, conservative leader assassinated, a killer still at large, and a government media machine caught red-handed hiding the truth about his motives. FBI documents confirm the engravings. ATF confirmed the rifle. Independent voices expose what CNN tried to bury. Yet the killer's they're still out there walking free. And the American people are left asking, if they already confirmed the trans ammo in private, what else are they hiding in the public? This is the haunting question. Because if Charlie Kirk could be assassinated this way, if the media can lie this brazenly, then no one's truly safe. Not me, not you, not anyone who dares speak the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are staring into the face of something bigger than a single tragedy. We're staring into a radical subculture armed with bullets and protected by lies. The fight for truth it's not optional anymore, guys. It's survival. Like, subscribe, share this video everywhere, because the truth they tried to bury, we just dug it back up.